Calling to order the hearing.
Oh, Chair Onishi, can you hold on? Hold on, we're not ready in finance.
Well, I'm glad I didn't call the meeting.
Starting now.
Calling to order the joint meeting, the Committee on Labor and Tourism and the Committee on Finance. My name is Representative Richard Onishi, Chair for the Committee on Labor and Tourism. Today is Thursday, February 4th, 2:05 p.m. I have some housekeeping I wanted to read. This year, due to the pandemic, all hearings will be live streamed via Zoom. So please make sure that the volume on your laptops and your phones are all turned to silence. We'll be hearing testimony in the following order: federal, state, and county agencies, industry groups, then individuals. When you come up to testify, please state your name and agency that you represent. In order to allow for as many people to testify as possible, there will be a 2-minute limit per testifier. In the event that we have a lot of testifiers, that time limit may be adjusted lower. Because morning hearings must adjourn, this isn't a morning hearing, but please keep yourself muted and your video off until waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a catastrophic network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. Members, we're here to consider one bill. It is House Bill 1278 relating to employment security. It amends the definitions of benefit year and week, conforms the manner of filing claims for partial benefits to the same as for total or partial total benefits, requires the Director of Labor and Industrial Relations to omit benefits charged for experiences savings for employers due to the event of COVID-19 in calendar years 2021 and 2022. For calendar year 2021 and 2022, sets the employer's contribution rate at Schedule D and C and D, respectively. Makes amendments to contribution rate schedule and procedure for determining retroactive to 1/1/2021. So we have the following testifiers. First up, Ann Pereira Estacio, PNR Chair, Director.
Good afternoon, Chair Onishi. Good afternoon, Chair Onishi, Chair Lu, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to testify this afternoon on House Bill 1278. The department is in support of the intent of this bill, but we do have some comments on the rate schedules chosen in this bill, and we do have one amendment we'd like to make to the bill. So we are strongly in favor of having Schedule D as the schedule for 2021. We all know that statutorily, if we were to go through the statutorily calculated process, Schedule H would be in effect. We are proposing that through this bill and also our administrative bill, that we omit benefit charges when calculating the experience of employers for 21 and 22. That process will drastically mitigate the impact on employers. And that's why we feel that Schedule D is the more appropriate schedule for employers in 2021, as all employers would then be the same balance road and pay at least some percentage of taxes for the tax year. We also wanted to know if we could talk about our amendment to the bill. We wanted to add a section where we would provide a benefit also to what we call reimbursable employers. These are employers who are non-profit employers who are a 501c3 and request to be a refinancing or self-financing individual employer with the department. We would provide them with a 50% credit starting from March 2020 to March 2021 and eliminate the charges to them for charges that were incurred if they were not the last employer of the individual that was unemployed due to the pandemic. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director. Next up, we have Victor Lim, Hawaii Restaurant Association.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Onishi, Chair Luke, and members of the Committee on Labor, as well as Committee on Finance. The Hawaii Restaurant Association, of which I represent, about 3,400 restaurants here in Hawaii, and we support HB 1278 relating to employment security, dealing with the unemployment insurance rate. If this hearing was a year ago today, I would probably be representing about 3,600 restaurants. So, we have lost quite a lot of people along the way. Most restaurant operators here do not expect business conditions to improve much in the coming years. And 43% of our members say that it's unlikely that they will be in business 6 months from now without additional relief from the federal government. To say that our businesses here in Hawaii are in dire straits will be an understatement. The rise in workers on unemployment insurance during this COVID-19 is not of any business doing, and we need our state to help all these businesses to bounce back. We need you to help us bring economic vitality and jobs back to our citizenship. We appreciate the recommendations from the department director, but keeping the current C rate for 2021 and Schedule D for 2022 will give our struggling businesses here a fighting chance to survive and getting out of this COVID-19 pandemic. And I just want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to testify this afternoon. Aloha.
Thank you, Mr. Lim. Next up, we have David Roth, Hawaii Auto Dealers Association.
Thank you, Chair Nishis and Chair Luke and Vice Chairs and members of the committee. We appreciate the opportunity to log in on this. When we talked to our dealers, one said that this, if the statutory level H were maintained, that would cost him about $1,000 per employee. I happen to make a trip back to Hawaii. I'm here helping my wife with a health emergency at the moment in Texas, and I happen to take $1,000 out and just look at it on on the bureau, and then the 10 $100 bills, that's a lot per employee. That particular dealer had multiple dealerships and 350 employees, so that was $350,000. At a time when sales are down, 19%, and all businesses seem to be down at least that. It's a time when it's just difficult for everyone. Fortunately, around 20% down, you don't get it into the bone. If you get into a bone of a business, they have to sell assets. So right now, it's just a matter of there's been can we bring some people back? How can we get back to normal? I just got the stats today that said it looks like we'll do around 50,000 new vehicles sold next year, which is the average over the past 20 years. So that's kind of a returning to average again for our industry. So I just wanted to thank you for letting us testify. Thank you very much for proposing level C and D in this bill. We hope that it passes. We're supportive of it, and that'll give a breather to let businesses try to recover. Thank you very much. We're in much support of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Ruffy. Next up, we have Lauren Zerbo, Hawaii Food Industry Association. Not here? Okay. Next, Tom Yamachika, Hawaii Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Thank you, Chair Onishi and Chair Luke, committee members for listening.
Tom, your audio's off. Your audio, we can't hear you.
It should be on my end.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. This is Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. What our written testimony does for those interested is give some technical background on the unemployment tax system and the Title 12 advances, the kinds of borrowings that we've had to do from Uncle Sam to date. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that, but again, our testimony has been focused on giving background in this important area.
Thank you, Mr. Yamachika. For members, I wanted to let you know that Ms. Zerbo's testimony for the Hawaii Food Industry Association was in support. Next up is Ryan Kusumoto, Parents and Children Together.
Thank you, chairs and committee members, for the opportunity to testify. We stand behind our written testimony. I just wanted to add a few more here. We wanted to speak specifically to the amendment and express appreciation to DLIR's amendment. Reimbursing employers have had to pay for the exponential increases in unemployment this year, as opposed to it being spread over the next few years through rate increases. As a result, we have seen increases collectively of about 260%, with some organizations seeing increases of 1,600%. Moreover, these base period claims have hit us hard. We are covering charges for employees who left our organizations to another one and subsequently was laid off from that organization. Some reimbursing employers have not laid off any employees, but still have record unemployment charges due to these base period claims. So thank you for this consideration, as this will help us all continue the vital and frontline services in keeping our community safe, healthy, and engaged. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Kusumoto. Next up, Pamela Tumpa from the Maui Chamber of Commerce.
Let's see. Aloha. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Aloha, Chair Onishi, Vice Chair Sayama of the Committee on Labor and Tourism, and Chair Luke and Vice Chair Cullen of the Committee on Finance, and members of both committees. I'm Pamela Tumpa, President of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, the county most impacted by COVID-19 the pandemic in terms of our dependence on the visitor industry and the corresponding rate of unemployment. We used to think the trickle-down effect from the visitor industry to our overall economic health and business health was 75%. Today, we think it's somewhere between 85 and 95, and I would say it's at least 90%, personally. We appreciate the Joint Committee hearing today to try and get this bill passed quickly. We feel this is the best bill on this topic. And this bill sends a message that our House representatives understand the hurt that our businesses are facing and that we've already lost many businesses. We are in an unprecedented time. The hardships that we've seen and the long recovery ahead make many of our micro businesses by national standards, really struggling to stay afloat. And our surveys show that our membership feels that over 10% they say they're unsure if they'll survive. And 65% are saying that this issue is one of their top priorities because it is critical to their survival to keep costs down and hold the rates at Schedule C. So we strongly appreciate, Chair, that you introduced this bill to keep it at Schedule C in 2021 and move to Schedule D in 2022. While we recognize the need to move up in the future, we also like that this bill adjusts the rate schedule for 2021 and 2022 and keeps it there, as it's so hard to forecast further. I just came out of the Economic Association's presentation today, and we're still looking at how the numbers were devastating, and December looked a lot like July. So we have to realize that this is going to be a long recovery. We also support the section in the bill that omits the benefits charge for all employers to address disruptions caused by COVID-19, which we believe would be a great help to keep employer costs low. As our friends at ProService say, and this is really especially important because it recognizes that this deficit is not the fault of businesses, and the sole burden of recovering this fund should not be solely placed on businesses. This was a global pandemic, an extraordinary situation on an island state very dependent on the visitor industry. And we were all forced with state and county mandates that required that businesses shut down for good reason and health, to protect our health and also our economic recovery. But a lot of the restrictions were placed upon businesses where they didn't have a choice. So unlike other situations of the past where we saw devastation, businesses could still continue to operate. Businesses are doing their part to keep their communities strong and safe. They're trying to bring back their workers as much as possible. They are fighting to survive. So we ask that you please pass this bill as written so that the rate does not jump to Schedule H, which would be devastating to our local economy and the state's economy. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sherry Norm McNamara from the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chairs Onishi and Luke, Vice Chair Sayama, and Cullen, and members of the committees. First of all, the Chamber of Commerce appreciates the committee's hearing House Bill 1278 and respectfully requests that the bill passes as is. The Chamber is a business advocacy organization representing more than 2,000 businesses, and approximately 80% of our members are small businesses with less than 20 employees. As you're aware, COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on our local business community, employees, and families. Almost overnight, as a result, the UI Trust Fund was depleted. And really, it was a result of COVID as well as the forced shutdowns as employers were forced to shut their doors or have limited operations. We recently did a survey, a Pulse of Business survey conducted by OmniTrack and our Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And the results of those survey reinforces the dire situation that businesses are still in. And we've been surveying our members and the broader business community since last March, and nothing has really changed significantly. Some of the results of that survey shown that more than 50% of businesses have significantly experienced downturn in revenue, drastically downturn in revenue, as well as jobs. More than 50% had to cut jobs, and about 80% of those surveyed that indicated that they had lower revenues and jobs were small businesses, less than 20 employees, and many of them are our local businesses. Almost a majority, about 94%, favored some kind of unemployment tax relief. So again, we appreciate the committees hearing this bill. And just to illustrate the magnitude that if nothing is passed, what the increases look like, we surveyed some members, large, small, different industries. And just to give you some examples, there's one nonprofit where it would increase by $34,000, one that would have to pay $1.5 million more, another that was paying just $7,000. The UI tax will increase to $85,000. And et cetera. I could give you more examples. But again, that just illustrates the magnitude of this huge tax increase if a bill is not passed to mitigate it. So, if it doesn't, obviously it will be a tipping point for many of our local and small businesses. So really appreciate that the committees are pushing this bill through. As we know, the bill has to be signed by the governor by March 6th, I believe. So any support that we can be given to help put our businesses and our economy back on track will be greatly appreciated. But thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. We do have the Hawaii Food Industry Association. Alexis?
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair. I'm Alexis Chapman from Hawaii Food Industry Association. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. As Chair mentioned, we are in support of this measure. As we all know, the economic crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted every aspect of our state's economy, and our local businesses are struggling. We've already seen dozens of business closures, and unfortunately more are likely before our state recovers. Allowing increases to the contributions that endanger businesses and eliminate jobs is self-defeating. This measure is the exact kind of support that our local companies need from the state in order to work to survive. We urge you to pass this measure as is, and we thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nelson Bifta from the Pro Service Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chair Anishi, Chair Luke, members of the committee. I'm Nelson Befatel on behalf of Pro Service Hawaii. We certainly acknowledge and appreciate Chair Luke, Chair Anishi, and the Labor Director, and Estasha, for their leadership in addressing this important issue for our businesses. And it's certainly a pleasure working with you as we try to find the right solution for Hawaii businesses and providing them tax relief so they can help rebuild our economy. We represent about 2,400 businesses and there are 35,000 employees. So we've seen the struggle firsthand working with our local businesses as they try to survive this pandemic to keep our working families employed. And we're here on their behalf. With regard to Bill 1278, I think we believe there are two issues to address. One is, what is the right rate for our businesses so we can allow them to rebuild their economy? Where should we hold the rate at? And I believe holding it at C, as this bill states, in 2021 is the right move. However, we would like you to consider keeping it to Schedule C for 2022 also. We all know it's going to be a long rebound, and by keeping it to Schedule C will allow our businesses the needed time, at least 2 years, to rebuild our economy. The second issue, and as our friend at the Maui Chamber has already mentioned, should employers be solely responsible for replenishing the UI Trust Fund? The UI Trust Fund was funded solely by employers. That's 30,000 or so employers in Hawaii. It was intended to provide wage relief to workers who were separated from their jobs due to business decisions by employers. Here we had a worldwide pandemic that was unforeseen. Government mandates were enforced and it forced businesses to close. And our UI system became a mechanism to deliver economic relief to the entire population of Hawaii that was caused by the unforeseen pandemic. The fund was not intended to pay for consequences resulting from major disasters. Therefore, it's entirely unfair to force our employers alone to replenish the fund. As leaders, we must look at other ways to replenish the UI funds. Outside of tax hikes on employers, we should work with our congressional delegates to get federal relief. we should consider using more CARES fund to pay down the federal loan, or we should look at issuing government bonds to spread the timing and source of repayment. I believe as leaders, this is something that we should take on. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next up, we have Baron Gus from Ultras Inc.
There, I'm live in color. Thank you. Aloha chairs Onishi and Luke and representatives of both the Committee on Labor and Tourism. As mentioned, my name is Baron Gus and I'm President and CEO of Ultras. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to testify, most importantly in support of 1278. First of all, I really want to thank the director of the DLIR and her staff for all the work they put in researching the problem and potential solutions. This is a very complex problem. I think everybody on the committee knows that. All of us who've been working on it for months appreciate how the interplay between this system and the federal system. But rather than just parrot the thoughtful testimony that we've all heard today, I personally want to address what I consider to be the elephant in the room, and that's the debt. At the end of 2021, it's forecasted that we will owe the federal government more than $1.2 billion. And I know here today we're talking about choosing which schedule to use, whether it's C, D, E, or even H. Unfortunately, choosing a schedule by this committee and other committees are just treating the symptoms of the problem. I agree we need relief, and I know these bills need to be passed out, but regardless of whatever schedule you use, at best, the income into the UTF will never service the debt without killing our economy. With that, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Raise taxes to pay off debt and the economy slows. Keep the taxes low to preserve the economy and the debt rises. The solution is to address the debt. It needs to be moved off the books of the DOL and into the budget of the state and paid out of the general fund. This debt, as mentioned now eloquently by Pro-Service as well as the Maui Chamber, it does not belong to employers. We didn't cause it, and we didn't initiate the loans. For hurricanes, we have the Hurricane Relief Fund. And for floods and tsunamis, we can even rely on FEMA to come to the rescue. I think the misconception for a lot of people is that these Title 12 advances are like FEMA funds. It's there at the federal government and it's available for us. The difference is FEMA funds are given essentially as emergency relief. And no doubt this was an emergency and we need relief, but those funds never have to be repaid to the federal government. I know there's a lot of work we're going to be doing on a congressional level to try to make this happen. But what we have to focus on today is removing this debt. Once we do that, removing it and shifting it to the general fund, then there's opportunity for you as legislature to pick schedules that will rebuild, if you will, the fund itself and create solvency in the fund, and most importantly, allow the allow the economy to restart. Finally, I'd say I submitted some pretty provocative and detailed testimony. You don't have to read it before and you make decisions, but please, I urge everyone to take a look at it and see what I'm urging us to talk about. This is a long discussion, a deep discussion, but it needs to be had. There are many ways to address this problem. Addressing the schedule is just the start. So thank you very much for your time today. And I too am available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tina Yamaki, Retail Merchants of Hawaii. Okay, she's not here. Members, we have additional testifiers who have submitted written support or comments. Quite an extensive list. instead of reading it, we'll be including it in the report. Uh, Members, for the way we're gonna handle questioning is we're gonna first do the Labor Tourism Committee. And after you've had a chance to ask questions, then we'll allow the Finance Committee members to ask questions. So members, anybody have any questions? Seeing that there are none, Chair Luke?
Okay, thank you. Any Finance Committee members with questions? If not, we don't have any questions, Chair Onishi.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna recess for decision making. Okay, we're calling the hearing back to order for decision making. After reviewing the testimony, we are going to be passing this bill out with a HD1 by changing the Schedule C contribution rate for 2021 currently in the bill on page 5 to Schedule D for 2021. And we're going to be adding a new paragraph to insert the language recommended in the testimony by the Department of Labor, providing relief for certain reimbursable employees.
Oh,
Members,
Chair Onishi,
yes.
can we start over because we didn't turn ours on yet. So
Okay.
yeah, because it's like
Okay.
you can start again. Do we have Matt? Hold on. Do we have to gavel in or
think he did. Yeah.
You did? Okay, yeah, so if you can start over, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay, do I need to gavel in again?
Yes, if you can gavel in again.
Okay. Okay, calling the hearing back to order. After consideration of the testimony, we are passing this bill out with an HD1 by changing the Schedule C contribution rate for 2021, currently in the bill on page 5, to Schedule D for 2021. And we're going to add a new paragraph to insert the language recommended in the testimony by the Department of Labor, providing relief for certain reimbursable employers. Members, do you have any questions? Chair Luke?
Thank you. For the Committee on Finance, same recommendation. Any questions from the members? No, we don't have any questions, Chair Onishi.
Okay. Vice Chair Sayama, for the vote for the Tourism and Labor and Tourism Committee.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass
Oh.
HB.
Wait, hold on. Vice Chair Sayama, Representative Kobayashi, you have a question?
What about the experience rating at 2019 level?
Yes, so the experience rating will, that's already in the bill,
Oh,
so
okay.
we will be suspending the experience rating for 2 years. Thank you. Vice Chair Sayama, you can proceed with the vote.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 1278 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Bellotti.
Aye.
Representative Holt. Aye. Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Quinlan. Aye. Representative Takayama.
Aye.
Representative Bokimoto.
Aye.
Okay,
8 ayes, measure passes.
thank you. Finance Committee, Chair Luke?
Thank you. For Finance Committee, same recommendation. It's with amendments. So Representative McDermott is almost on his way. So if you would like to slowly call the vote. Vice Chair.
Finance members voting on House Bill 1278, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Noting members Holt and Sayama are in finance also. I will take their aye votes from the previous committee. I'll take their aye votes from the previous committee. And then I will now call roll. Chair Luke.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Bronco.
Aye.
Representative Eli.
Aye.
Representative Ilagan.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Martin.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto.
Aye.
Representative Peruso.
Aye.
Representative Tam. Aye. Representative Wildberger.
Aye.
Representative Yamashita.
Aye.
Representative McDermott.
Aye.
Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. We are adjourned.